Maybe I was that way once.
Percy Jackson and the Olympians Season 1, Episode 5, reunites Percy, Annabeth, and Grover after their fight with Echidna, and it features several references to Rick Riordan's books, Greek mythology, and even pop culture. The fifth episode, A God Buys Us Cheeseburgers, introduces Percy and Annabeth to Ares, the Greek god of war, and takes them on a detour for him. While traveling on foot, the group encounters Clarisse's father, the Olympian, who promises to expedite their next destination if they fulfill a duty. Percy and Annabeth are compelled to reclaim his shield from an amusement park constructed by the Greek god Hephaestus, in order to enlist Ares' assistance. Although this specific twist isn't seen in any of Riordan's books, it gives the chapter that the episode adapts a fascinating new perspective. A lot of lore is covered in Percy Jackson Episode 5, which raises the stakes. Some allusions to Greek mythology in the source material are so subtle that viewers may miss them. The title of Episode 5 is based on the Lightning Thief. The episode title, A God Buys Us Cheeseburgers, from Percy Jackson and the Olympian Season 1 is derived from a chapter of The Lightning Thief, just like all the other episode titles. Although it isn't the sole chapter discussed in the most recent release, the majority of the events from Episode 5 are contained inside. Percy still travels to Waterland in The Lightning Thief in return for Ares' assistance, even if the events in the first novel are handled differently. Both I Become a Known Fugitive and We Take a Zebra to Vegas opening scenes are incorporated into the sixth episode of the show. A scene from The Lightning Thief is alluded to by Annabeth when she sees the Fates. An early scene in The Lightning Thief is given an intriguing new interpretation when Annabeth encounters the Fates prior to Percy emerging from the river close to the Gateway Arch. While returning from Yancey Academy, Percy and Grover encounter the Fates in Riordan's book. Grover maintains that this is a sign that Percy will pass away, yet the Disney adaptation doesn't depict any of this happening. Later on, though, Annabeth sees the trio, and their presence makes her wonder who will actually perish. The spin on this event by the TV show manages to raise new stakes while still making references to the books. A book subplot is alluded to in Gabe's interview. In the Percy Jackson novels, it is Gabe who causes Percy to become a known fugitive, and this occurs before the Gateway Arch tragedy. When Gabe learns of Percy and Sally's abduction, he attempts to blame his stepson for the latter. Before setting out on his journey, Percy finds out about this, and when terrible events occur all around him, the police show an increased level of interest. Gabe's reaction to Sally and Percy's abduction isn't discussed in the Disney Percy Jackson program, but in Episode 5, Gabe makes accusations against Percy that are similar to those in the book. Are you a troll on Twitter? Percy Jackson amusingly incorporates social media into its story. Percy Jackson and the Olympian stars Adam Copeland as Ares, a warrior with a long sword point. One of the best allusions to reality may be seen in Percy Jackson and the Olympians Episode 5, which discloses that Ares is a Twitter troll. Ares orders Grover, Percy, and Annabeth to wait while he wraps up a dispute he started on social media when they run into the Olympian god at a diner. This narrative extra delightfully combines Riordan's tale with contemporary culture. Ares brings up the Greek legend of Kronos. Walker Scobell's dual portrayal of Percy Jackson in Episode 2 and Percy Jackson's dream about Kronos. Greek mythology is frequently referenced in Percy Jackson, and A God Buys Us Cheeseburgers brings up the tale of Kronos, which will come up later in the series. Ares becomes enraged over his family while talking about the gods and the impending battle over Zeus Lightning Bolt. The king of the Titans and father of Zeus, Poseidon, Hades, Hera, Demeter, and Hestia, Kronos, is mentioned. Source, Britannica. Ares recounts how Kronos ate his own offspring so that they wouldn't be his demise, but Zeus eventually exiled him to Tartarus. The fifth episode of Percy Jackson features Saving Private Ryan. Is there any reference? The movie is about World War II. Grover tries to flatter the Olympian deity Ares in order to obtain information from him while they are alone at the cafe. When the satyr says he is a huge fan of Ares Wars, Ares wonders if he is just a casual World War II buff. You've seen Saving Private Ryan, have you? He asks. That's a humorous allusion to popular culture, even if Grover's strategy does end up working. Grover makes allusions to unknown but real wars at the diner. He makes mention of the 335 Years' War, the Lobster War, and the Turbot War. In Percy Jackson and the Olympians, Aryan Simhadri plays Grover, who is shown sporting his Orange Camp Half-Blood jersey. Grover cites the gods' deep cuts, his lesser-known battles that people still don't talk about. After Ares' Saving Private Ryan jab, Grover lists the 335 Years' War, the Lobster War, and the Turbot War as some of his favorites, and they are all actual wars. In 1995, a dispute over fishing led to the turbot war between Spain and Canada via British sea fishing. References for Percy Jackson Episode 5 Ares and Aphrodite's relationship. This relationship is based on Greek mythology. In the 5th episode of Percy Jackson and the Olympians, Adam Copeland plays Ares, who is seen riding a motorcycle while wearing a helmet. The topic of Aphrodite's relationship with Ares in Percy Jackson Episode 5 also alludes to Greek mythology. In the episode, Percy and Annabeth discuss this, and it is revealed that Aphrodite, who was married to Hephaestus, had love affairs with the god of war. This is consistent with Greek mythology, which portrays the relationship between Hephaestus and Aphrodite as unpleasant. Source: mythology source. Percy Jackson emphasizes Hephaestus's skill to construct such devices by showing how he constructed traps to catch his wife with her lover. Percy Jackson features "What is Love? Baby Don't Hurt Me." The pop song is played at the scene in the Tunnel of Love. In Percy Jackson and the Olympians, Walker Scobell and Leah Jeffries play Percy Jackson and Annabeth, who are riding in a boat in the Tunnel of Love. Hathaway's song, "What is Love? Baby Don't Hurt Me," is a delightful addition to the Tunnel of Love sequence in Riordan's book. This track is played in Percy Jackson and the Olympians Episode 5 while Percy and Annabeth navigate the ostensibly romantic trip. It's funny, especially considering Annabeth's ignorance of popular culture. Additionally, though they aren't quite there yet, it suggests the sentiments that Percy and Annabeth are beginning to have for one another. The relationship between Ares and Athena reflects Greek mythology. A dual image of the St. Louis Gateway Arch and Leah Jeffries as Annabeth Chase in Percy Jackson and the Olympians. Ares expresses his resentment of Athena to Grover during their conversation. To be honest, his venomous exchanges with Annabeth alone make this clear. Ares insults Athena's emblem, the owl of Athena, and goes on a tirade about how brilliant people think Athena is. Greek mythology, which frequently portrays the Olympians as rivals who don't get along, is reflected in the conflict between them. Theoi Greek mythology. Following this depiction of the siblings, Percy Jackson and the Olympians gives Ares rage and his interactions with Athena's daughter a fascinating depth. In Episode 5, Annabeth phones Percy Seaweed Brain. In the Percy Jackson books, this is her nickname for him. In the Disney Plus series Percy Jackson, Annabeth refers to Percy as Seaweed Brain for the first time in Episode 5, and she later abandons this moniker during a dispute over who will give up their shield in exchange for Ares. This isn't the arch, Seaweed Brain. Annabeth informs Percy when he insists he will be the one to sit on Hephaestus' golden throne. This is the moniker Annabeth gives Percy throughout Riordan's books, and it gradually develops into a loving moniker. It's wonderful to see it in Episode 5, as it demonstrates how comfortable and closer Annabeth and Percy are growing to be. The golden throne of Hephaestus appears in Percy Jackson. Percy occupies the chair where Hera was once imprisoned. In a deviation from the Percy Jackson books, Percy and Annabeth are obliged to reclaim Ares' shield from Waterland by sitting on Hephaestus' golden throne. Greek tales are the source of inspiration for this seat and its comparable folklore. Anybody who sits on the chair gets trapped and covered with gold. In Greek mythology, this is how Hephaestus exacts revenge on his mother, Hera. Only at Dionysus' urging and in response to an offer to wed Aphrodite, via Greek legends and myths, does he free the goddess. Even though Hephaestus is benevolent toward the end of Percy Jackson and the Olympians Episode 5, a large portion of his story is still told.